introduce our next speaker. He's a goalkeeper. Actually, he's a multi-goalkeeper. He's a hero of the environment and social and sustainable development. He's a veteran of the Social Good Summit. He's been here many times before, but now he's here as the new administrator of the UN Development Program. Welcome, Achim Steiner.
Thank you, Kathy, and Mizun also. I was standing in the side wings there listening to you, and I thought this is exactly why we come together. Isn't it amazing to listen to her and to realize that in the face of everything that you could say, don't even try, Mizun and so many others are trying. And this is one reason why we in the United Nations Development Program have joined forces with 92Y, with Mashable, and I want to explicitly and hereby also acknowledge our gratitude for this partnership together with the UN Foundation. This Social Good Summit has become an amazing event. And not just here in this fantastic venue in New York City, but actually increasingly across the world. Because what we're really trying to do is not to fill a theater hall with some people. We are trying to inspire. We're trying to reach people and use also this very special week that lies ahead of us here in New York, when leaders from all over the world, many of them not talking to each other, some of them actually in active conflict with one another, and also with many people coming to this high-level segment of the General Assembly of the United Nations who normally never get a chance to be heard. That principle of the United Nations providing a place, a space for people, first of all, to be represented. Every nation that is a member state, large or small, has the same speaking right. And also to bring civil society and to bring young people, and particularly young people, into the work that is encapsulated in this idea of we the people. That is the first sentence of the United Nations Charter. So here we are in New York, we look at the world and we watch the news, and you might as well sometimes be tempted to just switch it off and not want to watch the news. But just now, as Mezwan told, and as many others will speak this week to what is actually happening out there, it's an amazing story. Millions and millions of people, and particularly young people, actually do not accept that they have no power to act. They certainly have reasons to be concerned, but they also have reasons to be hopeful. The Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, often declared by the experts as too many, too complicated, don't believe a word of it. They're infecting thinking. They're catalyzing innovation all across the world. And this Social Good Summit is one way of saying to people, here's a platform. It brings us together. It allows us to think about the future in ways not determined by those who always say, well, it's got to be the way it's got to be, or it's always going to be like this. No, the contrary. If you look at Sustainable Development Goals today, they're actually triggering innovation. They're connecting people. And we live in an age of social networks. And this morning, I just attended a meeting of the Broadband Commission. We are dreaming about connectivity in a way as never before. This is our time as a global human family, but it is above all your time as young people. Don't let anybody tell you, wherever you are in the world, that you have no power to change the way things are. It is a great privilege to, since a couple of months ago, have become the head of the United Nations Development Program. It's part of the United Nations family, and we are the organization that has its feet and its hands in partnership on the ground in over 170 countries. Our daily motivation is to make 2030 now happen across the planet, across communities, in partnership with civil society, with the private sector, with governments, but above all, with people. And that's why I would also like to introduce to you this morning another individual slightly older than those who are normally referred to as youth, but I'm about to present to you somebody who is revered across the planet by so many for his music, but also for the group that became almost a cult term across the planet. And as you know, in the United Nations Development Program and in the UN, we look for goodwill ambassadors, people who have nothing to do with the UN, but because of who they are, what they want to do, and how they want to help us achieve things together, we join forces. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome onto the stage Bob Weir, founder and legendary musician of the Grateful Dead. Bob. So you can see he looks ready to take the world on, and we just spent the last half an hour talking about why we are actually going to do some things together. And I must say I'm deeply grateful, Bob, first of all, for the fact that you're here at this Social Good Summit, but above all that you have accepted to become a Goodwill Ambassador of the United Nations Development Programme and therefore part of this global family that is going to make the goals come alive and true. So welcome to the family.
Well, thank you so much.
So Bob, over to you. The world is listening.
All right. Well, I'm going to go over to
Sure.
the lectern
Shall I hold
here.
that for you?
Surely. Thank you. I'll start by saying why social good, and because it feels good and it feels right. 29 years ago this week, the Grateful Dead, along with Greenpeace, Rainforest Action Network, and Cultural Survival, held a press conference here in New York to announce a benefit at Madison Square Garden to save the rainforests. The concert served as an effort to empower the audience to act, and act they did. The health and viability of the rainforests have been an international issue ever since, and great progress has been made in slowing their destruction. Let us ask, how was that difference made? The band's fans, the Deadheads, in all walks of life, including business and media, established a discourse. They went back and forth and built a solid, if unspoken, resolve to do something about it. There weren't all that many Deadheads, but they were motivated. They insisted their politicians address the issue. But more important, at the dawn of the internet era, they spotlighted businesses that either helped or hurt the rainforests. They supported the ones that were helping and stayed clear of the ones who didn't. Today, it's quite normal for businesses to call attention to their contributions to the rainforest cause and beyond. Just look at what's on your cereal box tomorrow morning. Like your breakfast cereal, more and more these days, people are requiring the companies they patronize to be actively involved in architecting a sustainable future. As governments are all too often beholden to the very interests that are counter to sustainability and the greater good, and given the lack of political choice, people are more and more making their voices heard on a different plane. They're voting with their actions and their wallets. They're patronizing businesses that share their commitments, whether or not their governments can or will act responsibly, sustainably, or equitably. This amounts to a new, borderless democracy that serves the greater good of the planet and may someday substantially augment or even overshadow the governments that are unable to provide a realistically sustainable future for their citizens. In this new orbit, actions and transactions and the thoughts behind them are becoming a new currency. With advances in production and media technologies, businesses will be able to be more agile and responsive to their customer base. At the same time, consumers will be ever more focused on investing in a sustainable future when they buy a product. People coming together in this way illustrate a central point that everything we do matters, even the smallest things. We're coming to realize in very real terms what all major religions have taught all along. Our actions, large and small, equal our worth, quite simply. And regardless of race, country, religion, or most particularly gender. This is happening now, and there is nothing to stop this phenomenon from growing, perhaps exponentially. More and more people will likely tire of the endless cavalcade of negativity that the current media soup has to offer. At the same time, they will be attracted to more uplifting and fulfilling forms of participation as those forms avail themselves. Younger people, who are generally more given to positivity in the arenas of interactive media will soon be the major demographic for most businesses. And the businesses that will succeed with that demographic will be the ones who furnish hope and a feeling of participation and purpose along with their other offerings. It is becoming very real to the younger set that short-term self-interested actions have value that is intrinsically linked to mid and long-term economic issues. The key to success here will be linking economics to everyday actions such as going to school, perhaps taking a footstep on a kinetic floor, donating to a cause, and maintaining a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. Businesses have more money and influence, both economically and politically, than ever before. A healthy, sustainable society creates a healthy, sustainable economy. The businesses that will survive already know this. I'm honored to be appointed an ambassador to the United Nations and hope to use my position to promote this kind of awareness in the world of business and elsewhere. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, some of you might still be intrigued how Grateful Dead and climate change in terms of terminology might coalesce over time, but I invite you to be creative because I think we have many, many opportunities with Bob over the coming years to do great things. And I just want to thank you again for having taken this role on, for taking climate change to where it belongs, out there in the streets, not only in politicians' rhetoric and speeches and all the debates. Climate change is our agenda. It belongs into the hands of those who have the most to lose, which are young people. And whether they're young at heart or young in age, it doesn't matter. And I hope that many of your followers, Bob, the Grateful Dead family, will actually view today also as an invitation to join an ever-growing number of people who are saying climate change is not someone else's responsibility. It's not the next generation. It's not another country. It's mine. It's yours. And together, we will actually make it work. Thank you so much, and another round of applause for Bob.